Chapter 14 Ecosystem. An ecosystem can be visualized as a functional unit of nature where living organisms interact among themselves and also with the surrounding physical environment. Ecosystem varies greatly in size from a small pond to a large forest or a sea. Many ecologists regard the entire biosphere as a global ecosystem, as a composite of all local ecosystem on earth. Since this ecosystem is too much big and complex to be divided at one time, it is convenient to divide it into two basic categories, namely the terrestrial and the aquatic. Forest, grassland, desert are some examples of terrestrial ecosystem. Pond, wetland, river are some examples of aquatic ecosystem. Crop fields and an aquarium may be considered as a man-made ecosystem. We will first look at the structure of an ecosystem in order to appreciate the input, means the productivity, the transfer of energy and the output output. We will also look at the relationship between the cycles, chains and webs, and they are created as a result of this energy flow within the system and their interrelationship. 14.1 The ecosystem, the structure and function. In chapter 13, you have looked at the various components of environment, abiotic and biotic. You studied how the individual biotic and abiotic factors affected each other and their surrounding. Let us look at these components in a more integrated manner and see how the flow of energy takes place within these components of the ecosystem. Interaction of biotic and abiotic components result in a physical structure that is a characteristic for each type of ecosystem. Identification and enumeration of plant and animal species of an ecosystem gives the species composition. Vertical distribution of different species occupying different levels is called stratification. For example, tree occupy top vertical strata or layer of forest, and the second and shrubs the second, and herbs and grasses occupy the bottom layer. The components of the ecosystem are seen to function as a unit when you consider the following aspect. 1. The productivity. 2. The decomposition. 3rd one, energy flow. And the 4th one, nutrient cycle. To understand about the aquatic ecosystem, let us take a small pond as an example. This is fairly a self-sustainable unit and rather simple ecosystem. Then, a pond is a shallow water body in which all the above mentioned 4 components of an ecosystem are well exhibited. The abiotic component is the water with all dissolved inorganic and organic substances and the rich soil deposit at the bottom of the pond. The solar input, the cycle of temperature, the day length and other climatic conditions regulate the rate of function of the entire pond. The autotrophic components include the phytoplankton, some algae and the floating submerged and marginal plant found at the edges. The consumers are represented by the zooplankton, and the free swimming and bottom dwelling forms. The decomposers are the fungi, bacteria, flagellates, especially abundant in the bottom of the pond. This system performs all the functions of the ecosystem and the biosphere as a whole. That is, the conservation of inorganic and organic material with the help of radiant energy for the sun by the autotrophs, conception of the autotrophs by the heterotrophs, decomposition and mineralization of the dead matter to release them back for reuse by the autotrophs. These events can repeated over and over again. This is unidirectional movement of energy towards a higher tropic level and its dissipation and loss as heat to the environment. Productivity. A constant input of solar energy is the basic requirement of an ecosystem to function and sustain. Primary production is defined as the amount of biomass or organic matter produced per unit area over a time period by plants during photosynthesis. It is expressed in terms of weight or energy. The rate of biomass production is called productivity and it is expressed in terms of, that is what you can see in the screen. So just pause and read that. Okay. Yes, we'll continue. It can so to compare the productivity of different ecosystem, it can be divided into gross primary productivity and net primary productivity. So the rate of biomass production is called productivity and it can be divided into two, the gross primary productivity and net primary productivity. A considered amount of GPP, that is the gross primary productivity, is utilized by plants in respiration. Gross primary productivity minus respiration loss is the net primary productivity, NPP. The NPP is available biomass for the consumption to heterotrophs, herbivorous and decomposers. The secondary productivity is defined as the rate of formation of new organic matter by consumers. Primary productivity depends on the plant species inhabiting a particular area. It also depends on a variety of environmental factors, availability of nutrients, and photosynthetic capacity of plants. Therefore, it varies in different types of ecosystem. The annual net primary productivity of the whole biosphere is approximately 170 billion tons of organic matter. Of those, despite occupying about 70% of the surface, the productivity of ocean are only 55 billion tons. The rest, of course, is on land. And now we are going to read decomposition. You may have heard of the earthworm being referred to the farmer's friend. This is so because they help in breakdown of organic complex matter as well as in loosening the soil. Similarly, decomposers break down complex organic matter into inorganic substances like carbon dioxide, water, nutrients, and the process is called decomposition. Dead plant remains such as leaves, bark, flowers, and dead remains of animals, including fecal matter, constitute detritus. So we can hear the rest in next video. Thank you.